Stop scrolling right now. This message is not appearing before you by accident. I have brought you here because the season you have been fighting to keep alive is officially over. The doors you keep knocking on will not open again because I, your God, have closed them with my own hand. You cried over those closed doors, begged for another chance, and questioned why nothing was working anymore. But what you called rejection was actually my rescue. Listen carefully, because within the next few minutes, I am going to reveal why your life suddenly feels uncomfortable, why people are leaving, why old places no longer feel right, and why your spirit feels restless day and night. I am preparing to move you into a road you never imagined possible. But hear me clearly, my child. If you ignore this moment, you may delay the very breakthrough you have prayed for in secret. I do not send this word twice. Move when I tell you to move, or remain trapped in the old season that is already dying around you. My child, I need you to quiet every distraction around you right now, because what I am about to reveal is not small. This is not an ordinary message, and these are not ordinary days in your life. You have felt it for a long time now, haven't you? Something inside you has changed. The places that once brought comfort no longer satisfy your soul. The conversations that once excited you now leave you empty. The routines you once depended on now feel heavy upon your spirit. Even the people around you seem unfamiliar, distant, disconnected. You have been trying to understand why everything suddenly feels uncomfortable, why your heart feels restless in places where you once felt secure, and why you can no longer find peace in the things that used to calm your mind. My child, listen to me carefully. This discomfort is not punishment. This restlessness is not abandonment. This is the sound of a season ending. I have been preparing you for this shift longer than you realize. While you were asking me to make the old season work again, I was already creating a new road ahead of you. But because your heart was still attached to what was familiar, I had to slowly remove your comfort from the places you were never meant to stay forever. That is why certain relationships began changing without explanation. That is why certain opportunities suddenly collapsed even after you prayed over them. That is why some doors remained shut no matter how hard you knocked. You thought the enemy was blocking you, but many of those closed doors came directly from my hand because I could see what you could not see. I knew where those roads would lead you if I allowed you to continue. I knew how much pain waited behind some of the things you begged me to keep alive. So I interrupted your plans before they interrupted your destiny. My beloved child, there are seasons in life that feel comfortable but are secretly killing your growth. There are places that look safe but slowly drain your spirit day after day. There are environments where you can survive, but never truly become who I created you to be. You were asking me for elevation while still trying to remain attached to places that only supported the smaller version of you. But I did not create you to remain small. I did not create you to spend your entire life trapped in cycles that no longer carry my presence. That is why I have been unsettling your spirit. That is why nothing around you feels stable anymore. Heaven has already announced your transition, even though your physical life has not fully caught up yet. I know you have cried over this change. I know you have spent nights asking me why everything feels so uncertain. You wondered if you had done something wrong. You questioned whether I had become distant from you. There were moments when you sat alone carrying confusion that nobody else could understand. You smiled around people while secretly fighting battles in your mind. You tried to force yourself to feel normal again, but deep inside, your spirit kept whispering that something was ending. My child, that whisper was me preparing you. The discomfort was me calling you higher. You were never meant to remain where you are now forever. The reason you feel disconnected from your old life is because your spirit has already started reaching for the future I prepared for you. Your soul knows there is more ahead even when your mind struggles to understand it. That is why you cannot settle anymore. That is why you feel emotional without knowing why. That is why ordinary things suddenly feel unbearable. I have begun separating you from expired seasons, and separation always feels painful before it feels peaceful. Do you remember how desperately you tried to hold certain things together? You gave your energy, your tears, your prayers, your loyalty, and your time trying to save relationships, opportunities, and situations that were already falling apart. But no matter how hard you fought, nothing fully returned to the way it used to be. My child, there are some things I will never allow you to rebuild because I never intended for you to live there permanently. You keep calling it loss while heaven calls it movement. You keep mourning what ended while I am preparing what is next. I need you to understand this deeply because it will free your heart from unnecessary pain. When I remove peace from a place, it is because your assignment there has ended. When I allow discomfort to grow inside your spirit, it is because your soul can no longer survive in environments where your destiny is suffocating. Stop blaming yourself for outgrowing places that once fit you. Stop apologizing for feeling different. Stop trying to shrink yourself just to remain accepted by people who were only assigned to a temporary chapter of your journey. You have spent too much time begging for clarity while ignoring the signs I already placed before you. The exhaustion you feel is a sign. The emotional heaviness is a sign. The closed doors are a sign. The repeated delays are a sign. The strange restlessness in your spirit is a sign. I have been speaking to you through these changes, but fear kept making you look backward instead of forward. Type Amen. Jesus sits on the throne if he rules your life forever. My child, hear me clearly now. You are not losing your life. You are leaving one season behind so another can begin. But transition feels uncomfortable because your flesh wants familiarity while your spirit is craving movement. There is a part of you that still wants to stay where things are predictable, but deep inside, you already know you cannot remain there anymore. Even if I allowed you to go backward, you would never feel fully alive there again because I have already shifted your spirit toward the next chapter. The people around you may not understand what you are experiencing. Some may think you are changing too much. Others may accuse you of becoming distant. Some may even try to pull you back into the old version of yourself because your growth makes them uncomfortable. But my child, do not let guilt keep you trapped in a place I already called you out from. Not everyone assigned to your old season can walk with you into the next one. I know this transition feels lonely sometimes. I know there are moments when you feel emotionally exhausted from carrying uncertainty. But listen carefully. Uncertainty does not mean I abandoned you. It means you are standing between what was and what will be. You are in the middle of divine transition. And while transition feels confusing to human understanding, heaven sees it as preparation. There are blessings ahead that require a different version of you. There are doors ahead that require greater wisdom, greater faith, and greater obedience. There are roads ahead that cannot be entered while you are still emotionally attached to expired places. That is why I have been slowly disconnecting you from what cannot follow you into your future. My beloved child, stop fighting the ending. Stop begging dead seasons to breathe again. Stop asking me to restore things I intentionally removed. Some chapters must close completely so your future can finally begin. And even though your heart aches during this transition, I promise you this: what I am leading you toward is greater than anything you are leaving behind. The road ahead may not be fully visible yet, but my hand is already upon it. I am already arranging people, opportunities, connections, and miracles that your eyes cannot yet see. What feels like chaos right now is actually divine rearrangement. What feels like delay is hidden preparation. What feels like loss is heaven making room for increase. So do not fear this season of discomfort. Do not panic because everything feels different. Do not run back to places I already pulled you out from. Trust me now more than ever before, because this transition is necessary. I am removing you from environments that can no longer carry your calling. I am separating you from places that cannot support your next level. I am ending what no longer aligns with your future because I refuse to let you remain trapped in cycles I already commanded you to outgrow. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can donate to us, given link in description or pinned comment, to show your support. And my child, this is only the beginning of what I am about to reveal to you. My child, I need you to listen carefully now, because this truth is going to break chains off your heart. The reason certain doors refuse to open is not because I ignored your prayers. It is not because I abandoned you. It is not because you are forgotten. Those doors remain closed because I, your God, personally shut them. And no amount of begging, crying, chasing, forcing, or waiting will rid open what I have already ended. You have spent too much time standing outside doors that no longer carry my presence. You kept asking me for another chance, another sign, another opportunity to make things work again, while all along I was trying to pull you away from places that would eventually destroy your peace. You called it rejection, but heaven called it protection. You called it delay, but I called it mercy. You thought I was withholding blessings from you, but in truth, I was saving you from heartbreak your eyes could not yet see. My child, there are things you prayed for that would have slowly drained the life out of your spirit if I had allowed them to remain. There were people you wanted desperately to keep in your life who secretly carried confusion, delay, distraction, and pain into your future. There were opportunities you cried over losing that would have stolen years from your destiny. But because you could only see the temporary comfort, you could not understand why I kept saying no. I watched you knock on doors long after grace had already left those places. I watched you exhaust yourself trying to revive relationships that were already spiritually dead. I watched you lower your value just to remain connected to people who no longer had permission to walk beside you. You kept trying to convince yourself that if you just prayed harder, waited longer, or sacrificed more, things would somehow return to what they once were. But my child, some endings are permanent because they are necessary. Not every closed door is an attack from the enemy. Some closed doors are my rescue plan for your future. Do you realize how many times I protected you without you even knowing it? There were conversations happening behind your back that I never allowed you to hear because they would have broken your spirit. There were betrayals forming in secret that I quietly removed you from before they fully unfolded. There were environments carrying hidden darkness that looked peaceful on the outside but carried destruction underneath. You were asking me to let you stay while heaven was urgently trying to move you out. If I had answered every emotional prayer exactly the way you wanted, you would have walked directly into pain that would have taken years to recover from. My beloved child, stop grieving over doors that I intentionally shut. Stop standing outside places where my spirit no longer rests. Stop begging for access to things I'd already removed from your path. You are exhausting yourself trying to reopen chapters that heaven has already closed forever. Some people are not coming back. Some opportunities are not returning. Some places are no longer part of your future. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner your healing can begin. I know this hurts your heart because you invested deeply. You gave your loyalty, your love, your prayers, your effort, and your hope. You believed certain people would remain forever. You believed certain dreams would unfold exactly the way you imagined. But my child, you must understand this painful truth. Not everything you desire is aligned with the future I prepared for you. Sometimes your emotions become attached to things that can't carry your destiny. And because I love you too much to watch you destroy yourself slowly, I intervene even when it breaks your heart temporarily. You kept asking why communication subtly changed, why people became distant, why situations collapsed without warning, why everything started becoming difficult all at once. But I allowed the discomfort because comfort was keeping you trapped in places where you no longer belonged. You wanted peace while staying connected to confusion. You wanted growth while remaining attached to environments that were shrinking your spirit. You want an elevation while refusing to release what was familiar. But my child, I cannot lead you into the next season while your hands are still tightly gripping the old one. There are some prayers I refuse to answer because I can see the full story while you only see one chapter. You cried because someone walked away, but I saw the betrayal that would have happened later if they stayed. You mourned an opportunity that failed, but I saw the exhaustion and emptiness it would have brought into your life. You begged me to reopen certain doors, but I saw storms behind those doors that your heart was not prepared to survive. So when you accuse me of silence, remember this: sometimes my greatest act of love is refusing to let you have what would eventually destroy you. My child, you must stop measuring my faithfulness by how many doors open immediately. Sometimes my faithfulness is seen in the doors that remain permanently shut. Sometimes protection feels painful before it feels peaceful. Sometimes obedience feels lonely before it feels rewarding. But one day you will look back and thank me for every closed door you cried over. One day you will finally understand why I interrupted your plans. One day you will see how many hidden dangers I removed from your path while you were busy questioning my decisions. I know you feel tired. Tired of disappointment, tired of confusion, tired of trying, tired of watching things fall apart after praying over them. But my beloved child, your exhaustion is partly coming from fighting against endings I already approved in heaven. You cannot find peace while constantly trying to resurrect dead seasons. There are some things you must release completely if you want your soul to breathe again. You keep asking me for confirmation, but the closed door was already your answer. The repeated delay was already your answer. The loss of peace was already your answer. The emotional heaviness was already your answer. I have been speaking clearly through what no longer works. But fear kept making you return to places I already commanded you to leave behind. Let me tell you something deeply important right now. When I close a door, it is not to punish you. It is because I know your future too well to let you remain where you are. I am not trying to take joy away from you. I am trying to protect the purpose placed inside you. Some environments cannot support who you are becoming. Some people cannot walk with you into the destiny I prepared for your life. Some opportunities would have delayed your spiritual growth for years. That is why I interrupted them before they became permanent. My child, I need you to stop romanticizing what hurt you. Stop remembering only the good parts while ignoring the confusion, exhaustion, disrespect, instability, and spiritual heaviness those situations carried. You keep trying to reopen doors because you remember moments, but I see outcomes. You remember temporary emotions, but I see eternal consequences. Trust my vision more than your feelings because my understanding reaches far beyond what your heart can currently comprehend. There is a reason you feel emotionally drained every time you try to force certain connections back together. There is a reason peace disappears whenever you attempt to return to old environments. There is a reason confusion increases whenever you keep revisiting what I've already ended. Your spirit knows what your emotions are struggling to accept. The season is over. And my child, hear me clearly now because this part is important. If I close one door, it is because another road already exists ahead of you. I never remove without purpose. I never separate without progression. I never end one season without already preparing the next one. But you cannot step into new roads while emotionally camping outside closed doors. Your future requires movement. Your healing requires surrender. Your breakthrough requires release. There are roads ahead of you that your mind cannot even imagine right now. There are blessings waiting that would make your current heartbreak seem small in comparison. There are connections ahead carrying peace instead of confusion. There are opportunities ahead carrying growth instead of exhaustion. There are places ahead where you will not have to beg for acceptance, because what belongs to you will recognize you naturally. But first, you must stop fighting me over what I already removed. I know letting go feels terrifying because the unknown scares you. At least the old season was familiar, even if it was painful. At least you knew what to expect there. But faith was never meant to operate through comfort alone. Faith moves forward even when the full road is not visible yet. Faith trusts my hand even when your eyes cannot see the outcome. So stop standing outside doors I already shut. Stop crying over access I intentionally removed. Stop praying for me to revive things I commanded to end. What is truly meant for you will never require you to destroy your peace just to keep it alive. What I have prepared for you will not constantly confuse your spirit. What comes from me carries clarity, peace, alignment, and life. And my beloved child, if I remove something from your life, it is because your future is too important for you to remain attached to what cannot go where I am taking you next. My child, there is something I must say to you now that your heart may resist at first, but you need to hear it if you are going to move forward into the life I prepared for you. You stayed too long in places that were only meant to be temporary. You tried to build permanent homes inside seasons that were only designed to teach you lessons. You became emotionally attached to environments, people, routines, and situations that I never intended to carry you forever. And because you stayed longer than necessary, your spirit slowly became tired, heavy, confused, and drained. I did not create you to spend your life surviving in places where your soul could never fully grow. Yet every time I tried to move you forward, fear whispered louder than faith. Fear told you to stay where things were familiar. Fear convinced you that uncertainty was more dangerous than stagnation. Fear made you believe that holding on to what was slowly dying was safer than trusting me with what was ahead. So instead of moving when I called you, you delayed. You waited. You hesitated. You kept hoping the old season would somehow become new again. But my beloved child, some seasons are not meant to be repaired because their assignment in your life is already complete. I know why you stayed longer than you should have. You stayed because leaving meant grieving. Leaving meant admitting that certain things would never become what you hoped they would become. Leaving meant accepting that some people were only temporary travelers in your story. Leaving meant stepping into uncertainty without knowing every detail of the future, and that terrified you. So you remained in situations long after your peace disappeared. You remained connected to people long after your spirit began feeling exhausted around them. You remained in environments where your soul was quietly suffocating because at least the pain there was familiar. But familiarity is not always destiny. Say amen. I'm trusting God's timing if you've released control of your plans. There are many people who spend their entire lives trapped inside expired seasons simply because they are too afraid to leave what they already know. They choose familiar pain over unfamiliar purpose. They choose emotional comfort over spiritual growth. They choose safety over obedience. And slowly, without realizing it, they lose years of their calling trying to preserve seasons that heaven already declared finished. My child, I refuse to let that happen to you any longer. Do you remember how alive you once felt when the season first began? There was excitement. There was hope. There was expectation. You believed you had finally found where you belonged. But over time, things began changing. What once energized your spirit slowly started draining it. What once brought peace began bringing confusion. What once felt light became emotionally exhausting. You noticed it, but instead of accepting the transition, you kept trying harder to recreate what no longer existed. You blamed yourself for the changes. You thought maybe if you prayed harder, sacrificed more, remained patient longer, or ignored your own emotional exhaustion, things would somehow return to how they used to be. But my child, you cannot force life back into a season I'd already removed grace from. Once my spirit begins shifting you forward, staying behind too long will always create heaviness inside your soul. That heaviness you have been carrying is not random. It is the result of trying to remain somewhere your spirit already outgrew. Your inner restlessness is not weakness. It is your soul reacting to divine transition. Deep inside, you already know you cannot stay where you are forever. That is why your spirit feels uncomfortable every time you try to fully settle there again. I need you to understand something deeply important. Growth always requires separation. Every new season demands that something old be left behind. You cannot carry every relationship, every mindset, every habit, and every emotional attachment into the next chapter of your destiny. Some things fit who you were but cannot support who you are becoming. And my child, one of the hardest truths you must accept is this: just because something was once good does not mean it still belongs in your future. You keep holding onto memories while ignoring present reality. You keep remembering who people used to be while refusing to see who they have become. You keep mourning the potential of situations instead of accepting the truth standing directly in front of you. But if you continue living through memory instead of discernment, you will remain emotionally trapped between seasons for far too long. I know there were moments when I quietly warned your spirit. I sent signs you could feel deep inside yourself. I allowed discomfort to grow. I removed a piece from certain situations. I showed you repeated patterns. I allowed conversations to reveal hidden truths. I let the emotional distance increase because I was trying to help you recognize what your heart did not want to accept. But every time I nudged you toward movement, you tried to negotiate with me. You kept asking for more time, more confirmation, more signs, more reasons to stay. But my beloved child, delayed obedience still creates suffering. The longer you remain attached to what I already called you out from, the heavier your soul becomes. That is why your mind has felt exhausted. That is why your emotions feel unstable. That is why even small situations suddenly overwhelm you. You were never meant to carry the emotional weight of expired seasons for this long. Your spirit is tired because deep inside, it knows movement is necessary. There are places you keep revisiting emotionally that no longer contain life for you. There are people you keep trying to reconnect with even though every interaction leaves your spirit more drained than before. There are dreams you keep trying to revive even though heaven already redirected your path somewhere else. And every time you return to those things, your peace disappears because your soul recognizes what your emotions are still resisting. My child, hear me carefully now. Staying too long in the wrong season can make you forget who you truly are. It can slowly lower your confidence, weaken your vision, and convince you to settle for less than what I prepared for you. The longer you remain where you are not growing, the easier it becomes to believe that stagnation is normal. But stagnation is not your destiny. I created you for movement, growth, purpose, expansion, and transformation. You were never designed to live trapped inside cycles that constantly leave your spirit empty. That is why I am disrupting your comfort now. That is why I am allowing you to feel the discomfort of transition. Because if I allowed you to remain fully comfortable inside expired places, you would never move forward. You would stay there forever, slowly becoming someone smaller than the person I created you to be. I know leaving is painful sometimes. I know transition feels lonely. I know uncertainty can feel terrifying when you cannot clearly see what comes next. But my child, there is greater danger in staying where I no longer assigned you to remain. The future I prepared for you cannot fully arrive while your heart remains chained to the past. And let me tell you something that may surprise you. Many of the things you are grieving are not actually being taken from you. They are simply being transformed through separation. Some relationships must end so healthier ones can begin. Some dreams must collapse so greater assignments can emerge. Some environments must become uncomfortable so you finally find the courage to leave. You keep thinking I am removing things to hurt you, but I am removing them to free you. You were never meant to carry the emotional responsibility of keeping dead seasons alive. You were never meant to spend your whole life trying to force people to understand your worth. You were never meant to beg for places to value what heaven already approved. And you were never meant to shrink your spirit just to remain accepted inside environments that no longer match your calling. My child, stop fearing what comes after the ending. Stop acting as though the closed chapter was your only chance at happiness. Stop believing the lie that your best days are behind you. What I prepared ahead of you carries more peace, more alignment, more growth, and more purpose than anything you are struggling to leave behind right now. But first, you must release your grip on what no longer belongs in your future. You cannot keep one foot in the old season while asking me to open the new one fully. You cannot remain emotionally loyal to places I already removed from your assignment. There comes a moment when faith requires movement, not endless hesitation. And my child, you are standing in that moment right now. I am not asking you to understand every detail before you obey me. I am asking you to trust that I can see farther than you can. I can see the roads ahead. I can see the people waiting to meet you. I can see the doors prepared for your next season. I can see the healing that will come once you finally stop fighting the transition. So stop begging temporary places to become permanent homes. Stop trying to resurrect expired seasons. Stop standing still out of fear. The chapter is ending whether you feel ready or not. But if you trust me now, if you finally release what I already asked you to surrender, you will discover that the future ahead of you is far greater than the comfort you keep trying to protect behind you. My child, there is a painful truth unfolding in your life right now, and I need you to stop resisting it. I am separating you from people, places, habits, and attachments that cannot follow you into the future I prepared for you. This separation feels painful because your heart became emotionally connected to things that were only meant to walk with you for part of the journey. But hear me clearly now. Not everything that began with you is supposed to finish with you. You have spent so much time trying to hold people together, trying to preserve relationships that have already changed, trying to keep peace inside connections that no longer carry true alignment. You kept believing that loyalty alone could save what heaven was already removing. You thought if you loved harder, stayed quieter, tolerated more, or sacrificed more of yourself, somehow things would return to the way they once were. But my beloved child, some relationships are not collapsing because you failed. Some are ending because their assignment in your life has expired. I know this hurts you deeply because you do not easily let people go. Your heart carries love strongly. You remember the memories, the laughter, the promises, the moments when things felt real and safe. You keep holding on to who people used to be, even after they stopped showing up the same way. You keep trying to reconnect with old versions of people who no longer exist. And because of that, you keep exhausting your spirit trying to revive connections that are already fading naturally. But my child, you must understand this. When I begin elevating your life spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, not everyone connected to your old season will feel comfortable around the new version of you. Some people love the version of you that stayed quiet about your pain. Some love the version of you that accepted less than you deserved. Some love the version of you that remained small enough to make them comfortable. But when you begin growing, healing, and hearing my voice more clearly, the relationship dynamics begin changing. And that change often reveals who was truly connected to your soul and who was only connected to your convenience. You wondered why conversations started feeling different, why certain people suddenly became distant, why tension increased without explanation, why you felt emotionally drained after spending time around certain individuals. My child, your spirit was discerning misalignment before your mind was ready to accept it. There are some people whose presence no longer brings life into your spirit because their season in your journey is ending. I know part of you still wants to save everyone. You keep hoping they will change, understand you, support you, value you, or finally recognize your heart. But my beloved child, not everyone is assigned to grow with you. Some people are only meant to teach you lessons before separation occurs. Some are sent to reveal your wounds so healing can begin. Some expose your fears so I can strengthen your faith. And some relationships end simply because your future requires different environments, different voices, and different levels of spiritual maturity. Do not misunderstand me. Separation does not always mean hatred. It does not always mean conflict. Sometimes separation simply means the assignment is complete. Sometimes people drift apart because the roads ahead are no longer the same. And when you try forcing connections that heaven is naturally separating, you create emotional suffering that I never intended for you to carry. Type Amen. New doors are opening if you're stepping into fresh opportunities.